Coming up today on the Nick Craig Show, total chaos at an ICE facility in Newark, New Jersey as left-wing protesters are now turning against the Democrat governor of New Jersey. We'll have all the insane details coming up. And a good Monday morning to you. Welcome into the Nick Craig Show, streaming live this morning on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook. Don't forget that you can take the show with you, the Nick Craig Show, with you 24/7 on your own time on demand in your favorite podcast app. Just search for the Nick Craig Show, tap the subscribe or follow button. You'll get a new program delivered each and every weekday morning. You can also listen online by visiting the website nickcraig.com. Our show this morning is brought to you by the Law Group here in Wilmington. Visit them online, lawgroupnc.com, or give them a call, 910-251-6088 if you have any legal questions or concerns. We'll hear more from them coming up a little bit later on in the program this morning. Well, as we kick off the month of June, it was a beautiful weekend across the eastern seaboard. Hopefully you were able to get out and enjoy it, spend some time with friends and family. One weekend removed from Memorial Day, the official start of summer. And while many of you were doing that over the weekend, left-wing agitators and protesters in Newark, New Jersey spent the weekend protesting against Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They were at the Delaney Hall ICE facility. This facility was in the news back last year. This was one of the areas in which these left-wing groups were once again showing that they do not support enforcing federal immigration law and that they are on the side of criminals. And I feel very confident saying that to you. Let's be perfectly clear about what we're talking about. We are talking about those on the political left that are saying it is okay to ignore. It is okay to whisk past federal immigration law here in the United States. That no matter what your issue is, no matter what the problem is, that federal immigration law is no good, and therefore you, as an individual coming into the United States illegally, are in the right. To hell with our immigration law, to hell with the process here in the United States. You deserve to be here, and therefore you should be. This is a major losing issue for those on the political left. Now, you can look at all sorts of various political polling and political opinions, and you will see very clearly that across the board, people are in favor of enforcing federal immigration law. That is a fact. Now, you can argue over whether this administration is carrying out that in an appropriate manner, and the polling may shift a little bit on that. But overall, when you ask individuals, do you believe that the United States should be enforcing federal immigration law? The answer is an overwhelming yes. Overwhelming majority, yes, we support this. And this creates a major problem for those on the political left, because this is once again another 80-20 issue that they are on the wrong side of. And we've seen a litany of these issues. We've seen a litany of these conversations over the last couple of years, whether it's men in women's sports, whether it's DEI shoved into everything that you deal with day in and day out. These are 80-20 issues that the left is losing on. And protesting against ICE, which then, of course, turns into assaulting both local and federal law enforcement officers, has been a constant status now for those on the left. We've seen it all throughout the country. Wherever federal immigration sources are doing their job, are enforcing federal immigration law, regardless of whether you think the law is good or not, regardless of whether you think that this should or should not be followed, it is the law. And it's not the law set by Donald Trump. It's not the law set by Republicans, right? Many of the federal immigration laws that we are talking about right now that are being enforced currently by Immigration and Customs Enforcement have been on the books for decades. Decades. Both Republican and Democrat Congresses, Houses, and Senate, both Democrat and Republican presidents. And so I will continually make this call to those on the left that say they hate immigration law, they hate what's going on with this. You guys have been in power and were in power somewhat recently. You go back to 2020, where Democrats had complete and total control. You could have changed federal immigration law at that time if you didn't like it. You chose not to do so. Therefore, it is the law of the land. And as speaking for myself, as a conservative, I believe that the law of the land should be enforced. And there are plenty of things that, again, you can argue over whether this or that. That's irrelevant. It is the law. And unfortunately, and I know this is a really hard thing to try and get through the heads of these individuals on the left, you don't get to choose whether you follow the law. You don't get to pick and choose whether you agree with a law or not. Therefore, it should or shouldn't be enforced. That's not how this process works. That's not how the United States of America operates. If you believe that the federal immigration law is no good, then you need to go out and convince the American people in a variety of different states where there are elections taking place that you have the right stance on immigration and you should be allowed to govern and lead. Now, we did already see a little bit of this, right? We saw what the previous administration did as it relates to immigration, which was largely ignoring it, allowing tens of millions of people to swarm into the United States of America illegally under the Biden administration. We saw this with our own very eyes. It was a major topic. It was a major discussion point. And it was one of the reasons, in part, in why Donald Trump won the November 2024 election and why Republicans have a majority right now in the United States Congress. Slim majority in the House, a little bit larger of a majority in the Senate. The American people did not agree with allowing tens of millions of unvetted, dangerous, violent illegals into the United States. This is not something that we have not seen play out. It literally was going on for years here in the United States. It is well documented. There are thousands of news reports and thousands of articles in a variety of different publications highlighting what went on during the previous administration. The American people overwhelmingly said, yeah, we don't like this. Yeah, we're compassionate people. Yeah, we want to help people, especially those that are in areas where they are dealing with horrific living conditions, but it needs to be done in a legal manner. It needs to be done with some level of structure, and it needs to be done in coordination with federal immigration law, right? As a whole, the American people are incredibly generous. We are. As a nation, we are incredibly generous. But we are strong believers, and I think of the vast majority, that laws need to be followed. You don't just get to waltz into the United States because you're from some dilapidated country in South America or anywhere else throughout the world. You don't get to ignore our laws. You don't get to come into the United States as a dangerous, violent, hardened criminal and murder American citizens. You don't get to drive drunk and kill American families. We've seen all of these stories, folks. They're not fairy tales. They're not products of somebody's imagination. These are all real things that have happened under previous administrations and their disastrous immigration policies. And the American people overwhelmingly reject it. They do. This is not, again, I feel strongly in saying this is not just my opinion on this. I feel very confident in saying this based off of all of the various data, all of the different polling, and some of the recent election results that we've seen. This is not a winning issue. This is not something that is seen as overly positive. Yet, the Democrat Party remains with a major problem with these left-wing factions because they are incredibly radical. They do not have the ability to read the tea leaves, read what's going on across the United States, and adapt to it, which is why you saw complete and total chaos taking place in front of a New Jersey ICE facility known as Delaney Hall this past weekend. which started as a protest and very quickly turned into what? Assaulting federal and local law enforcement officers. Because when you see these left-wing groups get together, it immediately turns to violence every single time. Every single time. Without a doubt. When these groups get together, what might start off as a so-called peaceful protest, blink a couple of times, go run and grab something to drink, come back, and what is the result? It has turned into a total freaking riot. It happens every single time. You can set your watch to it when these groups get together. We're talking about protests taking place that immediately transitioned into violent riots outside of Delaney Hall, which is an ICE detention facility in Newark, New Jersey, over the weekend, as some in high levels of government in New Jersey, including the New Jersey governor in Mikey Sherrill, found herself in a very precarious situation over the weekend. It started off with her saying that ICE is in the wrong. We know that ICE creates all of these problems. This was her speaking on Saturday, which was the second day of these protests. ICE is the problem. Federal immigration is the problem. They are creating unsafe communities. All of the same things now that you've heard for over a year, right? It's not the fault of the individuals who decided to break federal immigration law and come into the United States. It's the fault of federal law enforcement officers who are hired by the federal government to enforce the federal law. It's their fault. It's their problem. And within the span of 24 hours, you saw a total shift from the New Jersey governor in Mikey Sherrill. And then, of course, these left-wing protesters now calling her out because she's not far left enough. So first clip here is from Saturday afternoon in Newark, New Jersey. This is the first time that the governor spoke about these ongoing protests. Take a listen.
The New Jersey State Police Public Safety Response Team acted to secure the area. We did not make this decision lightly. It was absolutely necessary to avoid escalation from ICE. Let me be clear. ICE engagement creates an incredibly dangerous situation.
Now, hold on a second here. ICE engagement creates an incredibly dangerous situation. This is an ICE facility where this was taking place. This was not a situation where you had ICE like on the scene. This is a federal facility in Newark, New Jersey that they are responsible for staffing. Right? This is not when they were conducting Operation Charlotte's Web here in North Carolina. This is not where they were conducting operations over in portions of Minnesota. This is a consistent standing ICE facility that has been operational for decades. But as you're just hearing here from the Democrat governor of New Jersey, ICE engagement creates a dangerous situation. ICE is literally on their turf, their facility, their federally funded and operated facility. And yet again, as I noted before I started her clip, it is ICE's fault that this is happening because Democrats can't accept responsibility for literally anything.
It makes the situation worse, and I refuse to back down in fighting the Trump administration and the threats they've made. We know that people from outside the state have been interfering in the protests and escalating them. 5 of the 6 people arrested last night by state police were from outside New Jersey. And some national extremist groups have become involved in the protests here today. To the people coming from out of state to create chaos and dangerous situations, you should not be here. You are not helping the people detained at Delaney Hall. You're not helping detainee families, and you're certainly not keeping New Jersey safe. Today and going forward, I urge those protesting outside of Delaney Hall to bring the temperature down so we can focus on the detainees and their families. So comply with the lawful orders from local and state law enforcement and let advocates, faith leaders, and members of this community continue their work.
Uh-oh, that's not good. That is not the right thing to say for Democrat New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill. That is not the correct answer. You cannot call out these left-wing groups. She said what many on the left refuse to say publicly and out loud. We have got reports, her words, not mine, we have got reports that some of these individuals that caused complete and total chaos over the weekend were from extreme left-wing groups outside of the state of New Jersey that came in to do what? To agitate. This is a consistent standard with these left-wing events. And it builds on this larger discussion of which we've had in great detail here on the Nick Craig Show about this major issue that the Democrat Party is currently facing. The issue is that they have lost control of their base. You've heard me say many a times this ongoing civil war within the Democrat Party, where you have these very left-wing factions with their out-of-control, very unpopular ideas like immigration enforcement is bad, it's okay to have biological men and women's sports. They have tried and continually try to take control of the mainstream Democrat Party. It is a battle over from the progressives to the more mainstream Democrats. And it has created a major problem for them because every single time one of these protests happen, it is just mere minutes before these out-of-state left-wing groups surge in and cause complete and total chaos. And so when you've got the New Jersey governor, who is a progressive, I feel very confident in saying that, in Democrat Governor Sherrill here, admitting they're escalating this. You have got left-wing groups escalating this situation. She said the part that she wasn't supposed to. And this was the reaction on the ground after her making those comments, which all evidence would back up this is very much the case. The left-wing mob immediately turned on her. Take a listen to this.
Mikey Sherrill, you can't run!
Mikey Sherrill, you can't run!
We know that you work for Trump!
We know that you work for Trump!
Mikey Sherrill, you can't run!
Mikey Sherrill, you can't run!
We know that you work for Trump!
We know that you work for Trump!
Mikey Sherrill, you can't hide!
Mikey Sherrill, you can't hide!
We know you're protecting ICE!
We know you're protecting ICE!
Thank you.
We know that you're protecting ICE. We know that you work for Trump. This is how quickly and how immediate the switch is with these individual groups on the political left. You have got a Democrat governor in the state of New Jersey who has done nothing but pretend that she is part of la resistance against President Donald Trump. You heard her in the clip I just played, right? We're fighting back against the Trump administration. Which, by the way, she doesn't have the ability to fight back because what ICE is doing is codified in federal law. A state governor, regardless of the state, like New Jersey, has no ability to determine what federal law is. Totally out of her purview, totally above her pay grade. Yeah, she can say that. She can speak those words. The words can literally leave her mouth, but it has no impact. This is not a New Jersey issue to be dealt with. This is a federal issue to be dealt with. So even though in the same clip she states, I'm fighting back against the Trump administration, I'm standing up against the evil, awful, terrible Republicans, then of course says we've got reports 5 of 6 individuals that we arrested for violent actions against ICE and local police are out-of-state left-wing agitators. Snap your finger, immediately this group turns on her. Mikey Sherrill, you can't run. We know that you work for Trump. This was outside of the Delaney Hall ICE facility Sunday afternoon. They can't win on the political left, and that is why I continue to make the point that this is an ongoing civil war that I have no idea where this ends. And I don't know how it ends, because I don't know how you deal with this. You're standing up and you are part of the resistance against the Trump administration. You're doing everything in your power to fight back against Trump. And you have to come out and say, yeah, we're fighting back against Trump, but, please, if you're some left-wing agitator group, please don't come to our cities. Please don't come to our state and throw bricks and rocks and frozen water bottles and all the other fun stuff at law enforcement. You make that comment, you make that point, now you're part of the problem. It is a totally unsustainable situation on the political left. Now, it's their own making. It's their own doing. So I don't feel sorry for Mikey Sherrill. I don't feel sorry for any of these other Democrats. They have created this problem, and unfortunately now they are the ones that have to deal with the problem. And honest to God, I have no idea how that takes place. I'll have some more thoughts on this coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But before that, I want to tell you about the law group here in Wilmington. Remind you that when legal challenges arise, make sure you put your trust in the law group. Going all the way back to 2003, Melissa Gott and her experienced group of attorneys have provided high-quality, affordable legal services across the eastern half of North Carolina. Whether you're facing a divorce, navigating a real estate transaction, or maybe you're in a position where you need a strong defense, no matter the issue, the law group has your back. Their dedicated team ensures your questions are answered and issues are resolved as quickly as possible. Great news, folks. Melissa Scott and her team, they're not some big national law firm. Nope, they live right here in southeastern North Carolina. They're members of our community. Their office is located in downtown Wilmington, and they're just a phone call away at 910-251-6088, or you can visit them online at lawgroupnc.com. That's 910-251-6088, or online lawgroupnc.com. It's the Law Group. Experience and dedication you can rely on. We appreciate the Law Group and their continued support here of the Nick Craig Show. All right, quick break. We will continue with our coverage of complete and total unmitigated chaos in Newark, New Jersey over the weekend as left-wing agitators decided that they were going to show up and assault both federal and state and local law enforcement. Just a typical late May weekend in Democrat New Jersey. No surprise. More coverage coming up after this as the Nick Craig Show continues streaming live this Monday morning, 7 a.m., YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, and available 24/7 wherever you get your podcasts. And a good Monday to you. Welcome back to the Nick Craig Show. Thanks for spending some time here. I want to let you know that our monthly hangout for the month of May is taking place in the month of June. We'll have 2 hangouts in the month of June. If you'd like access to that, you can head on over to patreon.com Nick Craig and get access to not only our daily show notes, but our monthly hangout. We jump on a Zoom for a couple of hours each and every month, chat about all of the news and topics of the day. That is going to be taking place Wednesday at night. That is June the 3rd, 7 p.m. You still have time to sign up. Patreon.com/Nick Craig. You can also get that link over on the website, nickcraig.com. And we'll have another one of these coming up in late June as we do these each and every month for those that support the show over at patreon.com/Nick Craig. All right, back to what was a busy news weekend. A lot of the coverage surrounding an ICE facility known as Delaney Hall in Newark, New Jersey. This has been the site multiple times over the last year or so, a little over a year at this point, of protests that very quickly turn into out-of-control violent riots in front of this federal facility that has existed for decades in Newark, New Jersey. It is an ICE detention center, which, just based on its name, exactly what goes on here for those that are facing charges from the federal government that have not followed our federal immigration law, that are taken into custody by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This is one of the facilities where those individuals are placed. Why are they placed in said facilities? Because these individuals chose to not follow U.S. law. These individuals chose to ignore federal immigration law and come into the United States illegally. Regardless of their situation, regardless of the country that they're from, regardless of the horrific financial or economic or living conditions, all of that is irrelevant. You don't get to break federal immigration law because you want to. There is a process in place. The United States allows individuals to come to our country. We have a full-fledged immigration process. And for those that are willing to follow it, they can come into the United States, or starting off with originally some sort of either work permit, some sort of paperwork, whatever, to come into the United States, and then transition, if they want to, over into becoming a U.S. citizen, or a variety of other reasons or ways in which you can stay in the U.S. There is a process in place if you choose to follow it. If you choose not to follow it, I am very strongly of the mindset, and so are the vast majority of the American people, that you need to be deported. If you chose to come into our country illegally, if you chose to snub federal immigration law, you do not deserve to be here. And the President of the United States, and Donald Trump, ran an entire presidential campaign in 2024 talking about making sure individuals that are in this country illegally have to go. They need to be deported. And the American people agree with that overwhelmingly. They do. Don't shoot the messenger. That's the truth. So as you were hopefully spending some time with your friends and family over what was a beautiful late May weekend here as we get into the summer months, it was nice weather all up and down the East Coast for the vast majority of the weekend. Left-wing agitators were protesting at an ICE facility in Newark, New Jersey, that Delaney Hall facility that we've been talking about, and it has put and continues to drive a major wedge within the Democrat Party. You just heard in the last segment a clip from the New Jersey governor, who is a Democrat, in Mikey Sherrill, who said at the beginning of her comments, we're standing up against the Trump administration, we're fighting back against ICE, they're the one causing all these problems, blah, 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 blah. You heard that from her, and then immediately transitioned into, we have it on good authority. We have multiple arrests that are indicating that out-of-town agitators, left-wing out-of-town agitators, have come into Newark, New Jersey to create chaos on the ground. That prompted protesters Sunday night outside of Delaney Hall to do what? To chant that the Democrat governor of New Jersey is in fact a puppet for Donald Trump. Democrats cannot win. Democrats have completely lost control of their party. You notice how there's this constant push, and we see this all the time, to go further and further left by these candidates. This is why. There is no winning with these left-wing agitators. There is no winning with the far-left progressive groups within the Democrat Party. Unless every word out of your mouth they agree with 100%. Hook, line, and sinker. You make one comment, which is an accurate and truthful comment, which is there's out-of-town individuals that have come here to create chaos, to agitate the scene. For that, the cannibals, which it seems accurate to call them, the cannibals on the left have turned now on the Democrat governor of New Jersey. Totally insane. She was simply stating what law enforcement had told her. And so then another press conference, the first clip you heard from her was on Saturday. Then she spoke again on Sunday, doubled down on these left-wing protesters, imposed a curfew Sunday night. And the whole thing is just completely run out of control now. And she is now the one that is being called the problem by these left-wing groups. Take a listen to this.
Last night, we saw masked individuals attack the barrier, taking aggressive, dangerous actions against Newark and New Jersey State Police. They threw projectiles, they used barriers as weapons, and lit tires on fire in the street. Police at this time were not wearing protective gear. They'd been on site since the morning to ensure that protesters on all sides, pro-ICE, anti-Delaney Hall, could safely exercise their First Amendment rights. As the situation intensified, additional support was needed. Because of their good, fast work, arrests were limited to 3 people.
Now, hold on a second here. I saw plenty of videos. You probably did as well if you spent any time on social media over the weekend. There were dozens of individuals hurling frozen water bottles, rocks, fireworks. I mean, all the stuff that we've seen now going all the way back to the summer of peace and love in 2020 when Black Lives Matter and Antifa peacefully protested in U.S. cities all across the country. And, and when I say peaceful, of course, we mean throwing projectiles at law enforcement, shooting guns in the air, shooting fireworks at cops, bricks, rocks, all the typical things of a peaceful protest on the political left. So here again, you've got the New Jersey governor making these points that these groups, these left-wing agitators, masked individuals, surprise, surprise, showed up to the scene to create this problem. This is why she is in so much hot water from these groups today.
Let me be clear. Violent, chaotic clashes hurt everyone.
Nope.
They put the lives of both protesters and law enforcement in danger.
Is she supporting law enforcement? Are my ears deceiving me? Are my eyes deceiving me? Is the Democrat governor of New Jersey standing with law enforcement? How dare she? She's not being a good progressive.
They take the focus away from people inside Delaney Hall and their families. And they raise the temperature with ICE. I will ensure public safety, and I refuse to give ICE an excuse to surge into our communities. That would make the situation more dangerous and put more New Jerseyans at risk. It's time to bring the temperature down. To protect public safety, the area around Delaney Hall has been secured, and the city of Newark issued a curfew there last night.
Not good. Not good at all for her. She has done nothing but tick off these left-wing groups beyond any stretch of the imagination. Even though every word out of her mouth is incredibly logical, even though what she is saying, I think the vast majority of people agree with, she is not towing the progressive line. She is not allowing complete and total chaos to take place in the streets. She has enacted a curfew. She has instructed state police to secure the scene, secure the facility. The left doesn't want this. They want unmitigated chaos, damage, and destruction. This is what they thrive on. It is arguably the only thing that they are good at. And now there is a Democrat in New Jersey governor, Mikey Sherrill, standing in their way. And so now she, and you heard the protest call earlier, is now the problem. You cannot win with these radical progressives. You literally can't win. There's nothing that you can do. You come out and make a very logical, plain statement that we don't want violence in our streets. And immediately, you might as well be Donald Trump. You might as well be an evil, awful, terrible Republican. It's amazing how quickly this happens. It is amazing how quickly the script flips on these individuals. But it happens every freaking time. They show up, they create mass chaos, somebody steps up and says, "What the hell are you doing?" Of course, that's somebody being on the political left, and then that person becomes the enemy. We're continuing our coverage of a very interesting news weekend out of Newark, New Jersey, Delaney Hall, as left-wing protesters decided to spend their weekend hurling rocks, fireworks, frozen water bottles, bricks, other sorts of fun projectiles at law enforcement, both federal law enforcement, those that are responsible for the security of an ICE facility in Delaney Hall, also caught in the crossfire, state and local law enforcement that were attempting to secure the scene as well. The Democrat governor, now the enemy of the progressive left. And so in closing some of my comments on this is what I have consistently talked about with, I believe the Democrat Party is in a miserable position right now. In this situation in Newark over the last couple of days, I think is the perfect example of why I feel the way that I do. Because you cannot win with these progressives. You cannot go far enough. It is a constant contest of who can be further and further and further to the left. It is a constant contest of that. And the second that a Democrat stands up and says what I think the vast majority, 90+% of the population agrees with, it is not appropriate to throw projectiles at law enforcement. It is not appropriate to assault federal, local, or state law enforcement. I feel very confident in saying to you on this Monday that 90+% of the population agrees with that. When a Democrat stands up and says that, which is exactly what the New Jersey Democrat governor did, she is now villainized by these progressives. There is no winning with these groups. Now, what does this mean long term? I don't think it'll have any impact on the New Jersey governor, but this is the problem that Democrats face. When you look at even what would even be described as a progressive Democrat candidate, it is never enough for these super far left-wing factions. And now let's be clear. These left-wing factions don't make up the entirety of the Democrat Party. In many cases, and in most cases in politics, it is a small but very vocal minority. Not only is it a vocal minority, it also happens to be a very violent minority within the Democrat Party. And we saw the violence on full display. Great comment coming in on the show. They were throwing things at horses that state police had out there. Yes, this is the left. It's okay. Shoot fireworks at horses. It's their fault, right? Because technically a horse is a cop when they're being used in a law enforcement function. It's fine. Throw frozen water bottles, throw bricks, throw rocks, shoot fireworks at horses. Totally logical. A winning issue. That message goes over real well with the vast majority of the American people. But this is what they do. And there is no way to appease these groups. That's the issue that the Democrats face right now. How is it that you convince these individuals on the far, far left side of the spectrum that you are a quote unquote ally? Right? That's what Democrats are constantly struggling with. How is it that we maintain any semblance of normalcy in the places in which we govern without appeasing the progressive left, this far left radical contingent? That's the civil war that I speak of. This is why Democrats are in such a miserable position, but it's all self-inflicted. That's one of the important takeaways from this conversation. The Democrats have nobody to blame but themselves. They have created this monster. For years and years and years, they have appeased these far left factions, given them a complete pass to do whatever the hell they want, whenever they want, with no repercussions, with no consequences, with no issues whatsoever. We saw this from the summer of 2020 all the way until now. We've seen these groups be given a free pass by their friends on the political left, by Democrat governors, by Democrat mayors, so on and so forth. And so this puts somebody like the New Jersey Democrat governor, who I believe is an awful governor. She's done a terrible job for the citizens of the state of New Jersey. Puts her in a totally unwinnable situation. She can appease these radical progressive leftists that think it's okay to assault state, local, and federal law enforcement. She can appease them and turn her own people against her, which her own people would be state and federal law enforcement, state and local law enforcement that she has an obligation to represent. And so she says, no, I'm not going to side with the protesters here. We've got out-of-towners coming into Newark, New Jersey with the express goal, with the express intent to agitate the scene, to cause what started as a peaceful protest into total chaos. They've been arrested. Thank God, not enough arrests, but some of them were arrested. And now she's the enemy. She's the problem. You cannot win. And I'm very curious to see as we continue our trek towards November. Obviously, a lot of news over the weekend with another radical progressive, the Maine Senate candidate in Graham Planter. I'm sure you've seen a little bit about him. I'm not sure we'll have a chance to get into that this week. Hopefully, things slow down. Maybe we'll be able to jump into that. But it's going to be fascinating to watch how this continues to play out. This is not a new thing. We have seen this going back a couple of years when you had the rise of the AOCs and the Rashida Tlaibs within the Democrat Party that were trying with everything that they had to gain control, to try and oust, somebody like a Nancy Pelosi and a Chuck Schumer, to try and seize power for these far left progressive causes. They were stopped. And when you look at the makeup of the Democrat Party in Washington, D.C., in Congress, it's not progressives controlling it. Chuck Schumer, while yes, he's a Democrat, and yes, he has some progressive ideas, he's not a radical progressive. He's not. He's an old Democrat from New York State. That's all he is. Hakeem Jeffries, same situation. Now, he's a little bit younger than Schumer, I'll give him that, but he's not AOC. He's not one of these insane radicals. Now, he might every once in a while try and portray himself as much, but when the rubber meets the road, he's not. And so for these individuals, it is a constant balancing act of how do we stay in favor with the vast majority of our party? And I know it's maybe wild to say, but there are, in fact, some rational Democrats that exist. How do we stay in favor with those individuals at the same time as we try and appease the radical left? How do we try and appease these radical progressives while not alienating the entirety of the Democrat Party? That is the balancing act that we are seeing play out each and every day here in America. In congressional races, in local municipalities, in cities and states all across the country, that is the struggle that Democrats are dealing with. There is not unity. And in large part, I think this is because there still has not been a leader in the Democrat Party. Even going back to the Biden administration, Joe Biden wasn't the leader of the Democrat Party. Nobody trusted him. Nobody believed him. They have not had a strong leader in their party since Barack Obama left the Oval Office. In case you haven't checked the calendar, that was over 10 years ago. And still to this point, they do not have that individual. There is nobody to lead the agenda. There is nobody to lead the messaging. And so you've got all of these little factions that have popped up. All of them are trying to seize power of the Democrat Party, and it has created complete and total chaos, in part, which I believe could very much hurt the Democrat Party as we head into the midterm election. So we'll be keeping an eye on that on the national stage as we watch and get much closer to the month of November. Quick programming note, we are expecting a very busy week in the North Carolina General Assembly this week and throughout the rest of the month of June. We'll be keeping you up to date with all of those details. A lot of work to go on, including a state budget. We'll be keeping you up to date with all of that right here on the Nick Craig Show. Once again, quick reminder, we'll be getting together on Zoom Wednesday night. If you are a member over at patreon.com/Nick Craig, you should already have the link in your email. If not, I'll send out another reminder on Wednesday morning. We'll jump on there, chat for a couple of hours about everything going on here in the nation and across the state of North Carolina. Patreon.com/Nick Craig. We look forward to chatting with everybody coming up on Wednesday evening. Well, that's going to do it for a Monday edition of the Nick Craig Show. Thanks to the Law Group here in Wilmington for their continued support. Visit them online, lawgroupnc.com, or give them a call, 910-251-6088. The Nick Craig Show streams live weekday mornings, 7 a.m., YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, is also available 24/7 in your favorite podcast app, and is heard weeknights, 9 to 10 p.m. on WBT Radio in Charlotte. Enjoy your Monday. We'll do it again tomorrow morning right here on the Nick Craig Show.